The rain-slick streets of Austin gleamed under the sodium glow of street lamps as Penelope Sinclair stepped out of the black SUV. Her heels clicking against the wet pavement like the ticking of a bomb she could not disarm. In that instant, as thunder rolled low over the Colorado River, her father's hand lingered too long on her elbow, a silent command wrapped in paternal affection, and she wondered if he could hear the fracture in her chest widening with every forced smile. Then, across the crowded fundraiser lobby, eyes like polished obsidian met hers. Riley Hayes, the journalist whose byline had eviscerated her family's legacy just last month. And in that gaze, Penelope felt the world tilt, a secret uncoiling in her veins like smoke from a match struck in the dark. Penelope had always been the polished veneer over her father's ambitions, the daughter who smiled for the cameras at ribbon cuttings and whispered policy talking points into the ears of donors with the grace of someone born to it. 28. She carried the weight of the Sinclair name like a crown of thorns, each barb a reminder that her life was not her own. Governor Harlan Sinclair ruled Texas with the iron fist of a man who believed legacy was forged in boardrooms and ballot boxes, not in the quiet rebellions of the heart. Austin's Capitol dome loomed over their lives like a watchful god, its white stone facade mirroring the pristine image Harlan demanded. Family values, unyielding strength, no cracks in the armor. That night, the fundraiser pulsed with the rhythm of power, crystal glasses clinking, laughter echoing off marble floors, the air thick with cigar smoke and the faint tang of bourbon. Penelope navigated it all in her navy blazer and trousers, a deliberate choice to blend sharpness with subtlety, her auburn waves pinned back to expose the vulnerable line of her neck. She was here to charm the tech moguls from Silicon Hills, to murmur about education reform while her mind wandered to the stack of unread manuscripts on her nightstand. Stories of women who claimed their desires without apology. Harlan found her by the hors d'oeuvres table, his broad frame cutting through the crowd like a ship through fog. "Penny, darling," he said, his voice a low rumble honed from years of stump speeches, "the senator from Dallas is asking for you." Make him feel like he's the only one in the room. His eyes, the same storm gray as her mother's had been before the cancer took her a decade ago, held that familiar mix of pride and possession. Penelope nodded, her lips curving into the smile that had sealed deals and soothed scandals. But inside, something twisted, a resentment she buried deeper with each passing year. As she moved toward the senator, a ripple stirred the room, whispers, heads turning, the subtle shift of bodies making way. Riley Hayes entered like a shadow slipping through cracks, her dark hair cropped short in a style that screamed defiance, her leather jacket slung over one shoulder of a simple black dress that hugged her athletic frame without apology. 32. Riley was the rising star of the Austin Chronicle's investigative team. Her pieces on corruption in the oil lobby had earned her a Pulitzer nod and a permanent spot on Harlan Sinclair's enemies list. She carried a notebook like a weapon, her obsidian eyes scanning the room with the precision of a hawk. Their paths crossed near the grand piano, where a jazz quartet played a mournful rendition of The Weight. Penelope extended her hand to the senator, but her gaze snagged on Riley, who was murmuring to a waiter, her laugh low and genuine, cutting through the performative chatter like a blade. For a heartbeat, the world narrowed, Riley's full lips parting in mid-sentence, the faint scar above her left eyebrow catching the light, the way her fingers drummed against her thigh in restless rhythm. Penelope's breath caught, a flush creeping up her neck that had nothing to do with the room's warmth. "Ms. Sinclair," Riley said, materializing at her elbow with the ease of someone who thrived on intrusion. Her voice was smooth, laced with a faint Texas drawl that softened the edges of her words. A pleasure. Or is it? Your father's events always feel like scripted theater. Penelope turned, her hand withdrawing from the senator's mid-grip, leaving the man blinking in confusion. Close. Riley smelled of rain and sandalwood, her presence a magnetic pull that made the air between them hum. Riley Hayes, Penelope replied, her tone cooler than she felt. The woman who's made it her mission to dismantle my family's facade. To what do I owe the honor? Come to fact-check the caviar. Riley's smile was slow, predatory, but her eyes held a flicker of something warmer, curiosity, perhaps, or the thrill of the chase. Just here for the story. But you look like you're playing a part you didn't audition for. She leaned in slightly, her voice dropping. Tell me, Penelope, do you ever wonder what it would be like to rewrite the script? The words landed like a spark on dry tinder. Penelope's pulse thundered in her ears, drowning out the piano's wail. No one called her by her full name anymore. Not with that intimate lilt. And certainly not in a room full of wolves disguised as allies. She should have walked away. Should have summoned the poise that had carried her through boarding school heartbreaks and her father's endless campaigns. Instead, she held Riley's gaze, green meeting black, and felt the first thread of her carefully woven life begin to unravel. The senator cleared his throat, reclaiming her attention. But Penelope's mind was elsewhere, replaying the way Riley's lips had shaped her name. As the night wore on, she caught glimpses of the journalist, leaning against a pillar, scribbling notes, laughing with a cluster of young staffers, her head thrown back in unguarded joy. Each sighting tugged at Penelope, a reminder of the life she glimpsed in stolen moments, late nights at dive bars on 6th Street, where women danced without judgment, their bodies moving to the beat of unapologetic freedom. By midnight, the crowd thinned, donors drifting toward limos, Harlan deep in conversation with a lobbyist whose oil money greased the wheels of re-election. Penelope slipped onto the balcony overlooking Lady Bird Lake, the rain now a soft patter against the railings. She lit a cigarette, a habit she hid like her other secrets, inhaling deeply as the city lights blurred into a watercolor haze. Footsteps behind her, deliberate and unhurried. Smoking's bad for the image, Riley said, joining her without invitation, hands in her pockets. But then again, so is consorting with the enemy. Penelope exhaled smoke toward the water, watching it curl like a ghost. And what's your image? Hayes, the crusader. Ink-stained and incorruptible. She turned, meeting Riley's eyes. And there it was again, that pull. Electric and terrifying. Riley stepped closer. Close enough that Penelope could see the faint lines of fatigue around her eyes. The badge of long nights chasing truth. My image is whatever gets the story told. But you're more than the governor's daughter. I saw it in your eyes tonight. Like you're drowning in plain sight. The vulnerability in Riley's voice cracked something open in Penelope. She thought of the women in her past, fleeting touches in dorm rooms at Yale, a summer fling in Provincetown that ended in tears and silence. Always hidden. Always ending in shame. You don't know me, she whispered. But the words lacked conviction. Riley's hand brushed her arm, light as a breath. Then let me. One interview. Off the record. Your side of the story. Penelope's heart hammered, the cigarette forgotten between her fingers. The rain picked up, drumming against the balcony roof, a veil between them and the world below. In that suspended moment, with the city sprawling like a promise unkept, Penelope leaned in, not for a kiss, not yet, but for the whisper of possibility. "Tomorrow," she said. "My office." 8 a.m. As Riley nodded and vanished back into the night, Penelope crushed out her cigarette, the ember dying with a hiss. She didn't know it then, but that single word "tomorrow" would ignite a fire that threatened to consume them both. The morning sun slanted through the blinds of Penelope's corner office in the governor's mansion annex, casting long shadows across the polished oak desk. She arrived early, nursing a black coffee, her mind replaying the balcony's charged air. Riley was punctual, slipping in at 7:58 with a leather satchel slung over her shoulder and a thermos of what smelled like strong tea. No notebook this time, just her, raw and unfiltered, in jeans and a faded Ramones tee beneath her jacket. They talked for hours, the conversation meandering from Harlan's iron-fisted policies to the quiet suffocation of Penelope's days. Riley listened with an intensity that bordered on reverence, her questions probing gently at first, then deeper, unearthing the loneliness Penelope had armored herself against. "Your father's building an empire," Riley said at one point, leaning back in the leather chair. "But what's left for you when the walls come down?" Penelope stared at the framed photo on her desk, her and Harlan at her Yale graduation, both smiling as if the world were theirs. "What's left is me," she admitted, the words tasting like freedom. "And I'm not sure who that is yet." By noon, the office felt smaller, the air thicker with unspoken currents. Riley stood to leave, but paused at the door, her hand on the knob. This wasn't an interview, Penelope. This was something else. Their eyes locked, and Penelope rose, crossing the room in 3 strides. The kiss was inevitable, a collision of hunger and hesitation, Riley's lips soft yet demanding, her hands framing Penelope's face with a tenderness that belied her reporter's edge. It lasted seconds, an eternity, tasting of tea and risk. When they parted, breathless, Riley's thumb traced Penelope's jaw. "We can't," she murmured, even as her body leaned closer. "We already have," Penelope replied, her voice steady for the first time in years. What followed was a whirlwind disguised as discretion, stolen lunches at hole-in-the-wall Takarius on Congress Avenue, where Riley's fingers intertwined with hers under the table, midnight drives along the winding roads to Dripping Springs, windows down, Riley's playlist of Lucinda Williams filling the cab with aching ballads. Penelope discovered the curve of Riley's smile in sunlight, the way her laugh rumbled like distant thunder, the scars on her knuckles from a bar fight in her wilder Lubbock days. Riley, in turn, peeled back her layers, orphaned young, raised by a chain-smoking aunt who taught her to question everything, the ex who left her for a safer life in New York, the beat that nearly broke her during a corruption exposé that cost her a friend. "I chase stories because truth is the only thing that sticks," she told Penelope one evening, tangled in sheets at a no-questions-asked Airbnb on the East Side. "But you're the story I didn't know I was writing." Love bloomed fierce and fragile. A garden in Texas soil, resilient against drought but vulnerable to storms. Penelope felt alive, her skin humming with Riley's touch, her nights no longer haunted by the echo of her mother's unanswered questions about happiness. Yet guilt gnawed at the edges, Harlan's casual inquiries about her new friend, the campaign staffers who eyed her with suspicion, the ever-present shadow of the press pool. It was mid-October when the first crack appeared. Riley's editor caught wind of a tip, whispers of Harlan's ties to a shady land developer in the Hill Country. Deals that smelled of kickbacks and cronyism. This could be the one that takes him down, Riley confided over wine at Joe's Coffee, her eyes alight with purpose. Penelope nodded, but dread coiled in her gut. Be careful, she said, squeezing Riley's hand. Some truths aren't worth the cost. Riley waved it off with that cocky grin. Truth always wins. Pen. You taught me that. But truth, Penelope learned, was a double-edged blade. Days later, rifling through old files in the mansion's attic for a campaign speech, she stumbled upon a locked box, her mother's, tucked behind forgotten trophies. Inside letters, yellowed and intimate, addressed to a woman named Clara in New Orleans. Words of longing, of stolen weekends in the quarter, of a love Harlan had buried with his wife's illness, dismissing it as youthful confusion. Penelope's hands trembled as she read, the ink blurring with tears. Her mother, the poised First Lady, had lived this secret too, loving women in shadows, dying with it unspoken. The revelation hit like a gut punch. She was not broken, but her father had built his empire on erasure. That night, she confronted Harlan in his study, the letters clutched like evidence. Did you know? She demanded, her voice cracking the silence. About Mom. About Clara. Harlan's face paled, then hardened, the governor's mask slipping into something raw, almost human. It was a phase. Penny. A mistake she outgrew. For the family. For Texas. For you, she spat. The words venomous. You erased her. And now you're erasing me. He reached for her. But she recoiled. You're my daughter. This. Whatever it is. It's not who you are. The door slammed behind her, echoing through the mansion's halls. She drove blindly to Riley's cramped apartment off Lamar, pounding on the door until it opened. Riley pulled her inside, holding her as sobs racked her body, the letters spilling across the floor like fallen leaves. In the aftermath, they made love with a desperation born of fracture, bodies entwined, whispers of forever against sweat-damp skin. I love you, Penelope gasped. The words a vow. Riley's response was a kiss to her temple, fierce and binding. And I'll fight for us. Always. But fights have casualties. Riley's story broke 2 weeks later. A front-page exposé linking Harlan to the developer, complete with emails and wire transfers. The governor's office erupted, press conferences, damage control. Harlan's fury a tempest that lashed out at anyone in reach. Penelope stood by him publicly, her smiles brittle as glass. But privately, she leaked a key document to Riley, a quiet act of rebellion that sealed their bond. The backlash was swift. Anonymous tips flooded Riley's inbox. Photos of her and Penelope at that taqueria. Grainy but damning. Hands linked in the frame. A rival paper ran a smear piece. The governor's lesbian liaison, corruption or conspiracy? Twisting their love into scandal fodder. Harlan summoned Penelope to his office, his face thunderous. End it. Now. Or I'll bury her career myself. Tears stung her eyes. But she lifted her chin. Touch her. And you lose me. The ultimatum hung between them. A chasm widening. Harlan's empire teetered, poles dipping, donors fleeing, but his pride was ironclad. You're choosing her over family, he said. Voice hollow. I'm choosing me, Penelope replied, walking out for the last time. The storm peaked on election eve. A debate in Houston where Harlan faltered, sweat beading under the lights as reporters bayed for blood. Riley covered it from the press row. Her byline, the dagger that drew first. Afterward, in a hotel bar thick with cigar haze, Penelope found her, sliding onto the stool beside. We did this, she said, voice low. Together. Riley's eyes were shadowed, exhaustion etching lines deeper. At what cost? They fled to the coast that weekend. A stolen interlude in Galveston. Waves crashing like accusations. On the pier, salt wind whipping their hair. Penelope dropped to one knee, not with a ring, but with a seashell, smooth and iridescent. Marry me, she said. Not a question but a plea. Let's build something real. Riley pulled her up, kissing her with salt-stung lips. Yes. Yes. But reality intruded like high tide. Back in Austin, Harlan's team unearthed Riley's past, a fabricated ethics violation from her Lubbock days, whispers of plagiarism that stuck like tar. Her editor called, suspension pending investigation. Penelope raged, storming the Chronicle's offices, but the damage was done. Riley packed her desk in silence, boxes of clippings and notebooks a testament to battles fought. That night, in the dim glow of Riley's apartment, they faced the abyss. I can't let you destroy yourself for me, Riley said, her voice breaking. This scandal. It ends careers. Mine's collateral. Penelope cupped her face, thumbs brushing away tears. Then we fight it together. Truth wins. Remember, Riley's laugh was bitter. Truth got us here. But love might get us through. The betrayal came not from Harlan, but from within, from Elena, Penelope's childhood friend and now campaign advisor, who had seen too much, loved too little. Jealousy festered into treachery. She leaked Riley's suspension details to a national outlet, framing it as proof of bias in the exposé. The story exploded. Cable news cycles, viral threads, protesters outside the Capitol chanting for Harlan's head, and Riley's. Penelope confronted Elena in a coffee shop on South Congress, the air between them crackling. Why? She demanded, voice raw. Elena's eyes were cold, unrepentant. Because you were mine first. And now, you're throwing it all away for her. The words sliced deep, a mirror to her mother's silenced love. Penelope walked away, the friendship a casualty in the war for her soul. As winter gripped Austin, the cold seeping into bones, Riley's investigation cleared, vindication. But Pyrrhic offers dried up. She freelanced from a laptop in coffee shops, her fire dimmed but not extinguished. Penelope quit the governor's orbit, starting a nonprofit for LGBTQ youth in the Hill Country. Her days filled with stories like her mother's, hidden, then healed. Harlan lost the election by a razor-thin margin. The scandal his undoing. He aged a decade in defeat, retreating to a ranch outside Fredericksburg. Letters arriving sporadically, apologies scrawled in a trembling hand, admissions of regret for the woman he loved but could not save. Spring brought tentative reconciliation, a dinner at the ranch, awkward fork-scraping plates, Harlan's eyes meeting Penelope's across the table. I was wrong, he said simply. About your mother. About you. Forgive, Penelope asked, Riley's hand warm in hers under the table. Not yet, she said. But maybe. Their love, tempered by fire, emerged scarred but strong. On a June evening, under the live oaks of Zilker Park, they exchanged vows simple, witnessed by friends who had become family, the Colorado River murmuring approval. Riley's ring glinted on Penelope's finger, a band of white gold etched with a single word, truth. Years later, in a modest bungalow on the east side, Penelope would trace the lines of Riley's face as they aged together, daughters of their own running through the yard, free to love without shadows. The scandal faded to footnote, a chapter in a larger story of reclamation. But in quiet moments, Penelope remembered the rain-slicked night, the hook that pulled her under. Love, she learned, was not the absence of storm, but the courage to dance in it. The summer after the election dragged on like a fever dream, Austin's heat pressing down on the city with unrelenting insistence. Penelope and Riley had carved out a fragile normalcy in the bungalow, its walls still echoing with the ghosts of unpacked boxes and half-finished arguments. Mornings began with coffee on the porch swing, Riley's head on Penelope's shoulder, the newspaper folded neatly to avoid the latest barbs from the opposition press. They're calling Dad a has-been, Penelope murmured one dawn, tracing the headline with her fingertip. But it's the victory I feel like I've lost something. Riley stirred, her short hair tousled from sleep, pressing a kiss to Penelope's collarbone. You've gained a life, Pen. That's not loss. That's revolution. Her words were a bomb, but the undercurrent of worry lingered. Riley's freelance gigs paid the bills, but the sting of suspicion shadowed every pitch, every editor's hesitant yes. Penelope's nonprofit, Haven House, took shape in a converted warehouse on the edge of East Austin, a beacon for queer youth ejected from unforgiving homes. She poured her inheritance into it, money Harlan had earmarked for campaigns, now redirected to therapy sessions and art workshops. The first intake was a 17-year-old named Jax, all sharp edges and guarded eyes, who arrived with a duffel bag and a story of church elders who preached fire and brimstone. You're safe here, Penelope told her, echoing the words she wished someone had said to her mother. Jax's tentative smile cracked the armor around Penelope's heart, a reminder that healing was not linear, but communal. Riley threw herself into supporting it, her journalist's instincts turning to advocacy pieces on youth homelessness in the queer community. Late nights found her at the kitchen table, laptop glowing, while Penelope edited grants nearby, their feet tangled under the wood. This one's for Jax, Riley said one evening, hitting send on a submission to the Texas Observer. Gonna make them see what we're building. Pride in Penelope swelled, mingled with a fierce protectiveness. The scandal's embers still smoldered, tabloid photographers lurking outside Haven House, anonymous calls to Riley's agent accusing bias. But love fortified them. A quiet ferocity in the way Riley's hand sought hers during board meetings, or how Penelope left notes in Riley's satchel. You are my truth. Always. Yet fractures simmered beneath the surface. Harlan's letters arrived weekly now, postmarked from the ranch, his handwriting steadier as if confession had steadied his hand. The latest one detailed a visit to New Orleans, standing outside a jazz club where Clara had once sung, the weight of unspoken grief bowing his shoulders. I see now the cost of silence, he wrote. Forgive me. If you can. Penelope read it aloud to Riley over dinner, grilled okra and brisket from the farmer's market, the words hanging heavy in the air scented with mesquite smoke. Part of me wants to burn them, she admitted, folding the paper with deliberate care. But another part misses the man before the mask. Riley set down her fork, her obsidian eyes soft with understanding. You don't have to decide tonight. Or ever. Boundaries aren't betrayal. That wisdom, hard won from Riley's own estrangements, anchored Penelope. They drove to the ranch the following weekend, the highway unspooling like a thread pulled taut. Harlan waited on the porch, thinner in khakis and a faded Longhorns polo, his once commanding frame humbled by solitude. No staff, no handlers, just a pitcher of sweet tea sweating on the rail. Dad, Penelope said, stepping from the truck. Riley a steady presence at her back. Penny, his voice cracked, eyes flicking to Riley with a nod that held less frost than before. MS. Hayes. Riley, she corrected gently, extending a hand. Harlan took it, the grip lingering as if testing waters long uncharted. They talked in the shade of the pecan trees, conversation halting at first whether the drought's toll on the cattle, then easing into deeper currents. Harlan spoke of Clara, the letters of Pandora's box he had resealed out of fear. Your mother was my North Star, he said, voice rough. But I clipped her wings to keep us flying straight. Foolish man. Riley listened without judgment, her silence a gift, while Penelope's chest tightened with the grief she hadn't named. You could have let her be, she said finally. Let us both be. Harlan nodded, tears carving tracks in the dust on his cheeks. I know. And for that, I'm sorry. Truly, the apology hung, incomplete but earnest, a bridge half built. As they drove away, the sun dipping low, Penelope leaned her head on Riley's shoulder. It's a start, she whispered. Riley kissed her temple. And you're the bravest woman I know. Haven House flourished that fall, its doors opening to a dozen residents, the warehouse alive with laughter and the strum of guitars in evening circles. Penelope thrived in the chaos, her days a tapestry of crises and triumphs, mediating sibling rivalries, celebrating first jobs. But the nonprofit's visibility drew scrutiny. A local councilman, a Harlan ally turned foe, pushed for zoning challenges, citing moral concerns in veiled homilies. Riley countered with a series of articles, exposing the councilman's own ties to conversion therapy donors. The backlash was vicious, hate mail flooding the inbox, a brick through Haven's window with a slur scrawled in marker. Penelope found Riley in the kitchen that night, staring at the shattered glass she'd swept up, broom idle in her hands. We can't keep doing this, Riley said, voice small. The fight's wearing you down. Penelope pulled her close, inhaling the familiar scent of sandalwood. It's our fight. And we're winning. But doubt crept in like fog off the lake. Elena's betrayal lingered, a poison in old friendships. Penelope severed ties with the last of the campaign circle, her social world shrinking to Haven's vibrant misfits and Riley's circle of ink-stained radicals. Loneliness nipped at the edges, even in Riley's arms. Winter brought a turning point. Jax came out to her family, a video call from the living room couch, Penelope and Riley flanking her like sentinels. The mother's voice broke over the line. My baby. Come home. And Jax wept, the room a chorus of held breaths and tissues. In that moment, Penelope saw her mother's ghost, smiling approval. Inspired, she reached out to Harlan again, inviting him to Haven's holiday open house. He came, awkward in a wool coat, bearing donations from the ranch, blankets, books, a check that silenced doubters. Watching him kneel to tie a resident's shoelace, Penelope felt the knot in her chest loosen. "Thank you," she said later, hugging him briefly. "The first in years." "Proud of you, Penny," he murmured. "Of both of you." Riley, overhearing, squeezed Penelope's hand. "Healing's a hell of a thing." As snow dusted the hills, a rarity in Texas, they hosted their first family Christmas. Jax and the residents crammed around the bungalow's tree, Harlan in a corner armchair, regaling tales of his wildcatting youth. Laughter rang out, warm against the chill, and Penelope caught Riley's eye across the room, a silent toast in their shared gaze. Yet storms brew in calm. Spring unearthed a new secret. Riley's health, a nagging cough dismissed as allergies, diagnosed as early-stage lymphoma during a routine checkup. The word landed like a thunderclap in the oncologist's office, sterile walls closing in. "Treatable," the doctor assured. "With aggressive chemo," Riley joked through tears. "Guess I'll trade my leather jacket for a bald cap," but fear shadowed her eyes. Penelope held her that night, body spooned against Riley's, whispering promises into the dark. "We'll beat this together." The treatment began in May. Riley's once vibrant energy sapped by infusions, her short hair falling in clumps to the shower floor. Penelope shaved it for her, the clippers buzzing like a hive, laughter mingling with sobs. "Still beautiful," Penelope said, kissing the newly bared scalp. Haven House adapted, residents pitching in with meals, fundraisers blooming like bluebonnets. Harlan arrived unannounced one afternoon, arms laden with groceries, his presence a quiet anchor. "Let me help," he said, chopping onions for chili, the domesticity a far cry from Capitol marbled halls. Through it all, their love deepened, forged in hospital vigils and midnight fevers. Riley's pieces turned introspective, essays on vulnerability in the face of erasure, read aloud from her bed to Penelope's rapt attention. "You're my muse," she teased. "Weak but wicked." By summer's end, scans showed remission, the cancer retreating like a defeated foe. They celebrated on the balcony of their first stolen night, now a memory etched in time, toasting with cheap tequila as fireflies danced. "To us," Riley said, clinking glasses. "To truth," Penelope echoed. The scandal that once threatened to end careers had instead birthed a legacy. Haven House expanded, chapters sprouting in Houston and San Antonio. Riley's book on queer resilience topped regional bestsellers. Harlan, in quiet retirement, volunteered as a mentor, his stories a bridge across divides. Penelope, surveying it all from the porch swing years later, Riley's head on her lap, felt the hook of that rainy night resolve into harmony. Love was not the absence of scandal, but the scandal of living fully raw, real, redemptive. Autumn leaves turned the hill country roads into veins of gold and crimson, a fleeting beauty that mirrored the tentative piece Penelope and Riley had stitched together. The bungalow, once a hasty refuge, now felt like roots sunk deep, walls hung with Jax's abstract paintings, shelves bowed under Riley's dog-eared true crime tomes, the kitchen perpetually scented with Penelope's experimental sourdough. Mornings unfolded slow and sacred, Riley brewing loose-leaf Assam while Penelope journaled at the breakfast nook. Her entries a chronicle of small miracles. The way a resident's first poem recited aloud cracked open the room. Or Harlan's latest postcard from a fly fishing trip in Montana. Postscript with "Miss you both." Baptiste, Penelope knew, was a vigilant garden. Weeds of doubt ever encroaching. Riley's remission held. Her hair growing back in soft black curls that Penelope twirled absent-mindedly during movie nights. But the shadow of illness lingered in subtle ways. Riley's hesitation before long runs. The pill organizer tucked in the medicine cabinet like a talisman. "I'm fine," she'd insist with that trademark grin. But Penelope saw the flicker, the fear of fragility in a woman built for battle. Haven House buzzed with momentum. Its second anniversary gala drawing a crowd to the warehouse transformed with string lights and live mariachi. Penelope emceed in an emerald gown that hugged her curves, her speech weaving personal thread into communal tapestry. We are not scandals to be hushed, but stories to be shouted. Applause thundered. Harlan in the front row dabbing his eyes with a monogrammed hanky. Riley's proud gaze from the wings a steady flame. Post-gala. They escaped to the rooftop. City sprawl twinkling below. Champagne flutes chilled against the October nip. "You were magnificent," Riley murmured, pulling Penelope close, their bodies swaying to phantom music. The kiss that followed was languid, exploratory, a reaffirmation amid the stars. Yet the past clawed back. Elena resurfaced via email. A contrite missive from her new life in Dallas. "I've changed. Therapy. Can we talk?" Penelope deleted it unread. The wound too fresh. But the echo stirred unease. Betrayal, she learned, left echoes that distorted trust. Riley sensed it, confronting gently over breakfast. "She's poison. Pen. Don't let her rewrite your piece." Penelope nodded. But the seed took root. Days later, at a coffee meetup Elena insisted upon, just closure, Penelope arrived armored in resolve. The cafe hummed with laptop clacks. Elena across the table in designer jeans, her once sharp beauty softened by regret. "I was scared," Elena confessed, stirring her latte, "of losing you to something I couldn't touch." "You didn't lose me," Penelope said evenly. "You pushed me away." And Riley? She's not something. She's everything. Elena's eyes welled. "I see that now." "Forgive." Penelope stood, the chair scraping like finality. "Forgiveness isn't erasure. It's moving on." She left without looking back, the door chiming her exit, a weight lifting as she texted Riley free. "Home soon." Riley met her at the door with open arms, their embrace spilling into the bedroom, clothes shed in a trail of urgency. Skin on skin. Penelope traced the faint scars from Riley's biopsies, kissing each like a vow. "You're my anchor," she breathed, as Riley's hands mapped familiar territories. "I love you," Riley whispered, the words a litany against the night. Winter deepened their bond through shared labors, holiday drives delivering care packages to rural outposts, where queer isolation carved deeper wounds. One eve in a snow-draped Marfa motel. After counseling a teen via video, they made love by the radiator's glow, the desert wind howling accompaniment. "This life," Riley said afterward, fingers laced with Penelope's. "It's more than I dreamed." Penelope smiled into the dark. "Dream bigger." Spring heralded growth. Haven's first capital campaign. Riley spearheading a podcast series, Unsilenced Voices, that went viral. drawing donors from LA to New York. Harlan joined a board meeting via Zoom. His ranch backdrop a humble contrast to Capitol grandeur, offering fiscal advice with gruff humility. Proud, he grunted at close. The word a bridge mended. But joy's underbelly is vulnerability. During a routine follow-up, Riley's oncologist flagged elevated markers. Precautionary. But let's monitor. The word recurrence loomed unspoken, casting a pall. Penelope massed panic with schedules, yoga classes, date nights at Franklin Barbecue, but Riley withdrew, runs lengthening into solitary marathons. One dusk, Penelope found her on the porch, staring at the horizon. Talk to me, she pleaded, kneeling. Riley's voice cracked. What if it's back? What if I can't fight again? Then we fight together, Penelope said, cupping her face. You're not alone. Therapy followed. Joint sessions unpacking the cancer's theft, not just cells, but illusions of invincibility. Riley's essays evolved. Raw dispatches on love's endurance, read to packed rooms at Austin's queer-lit festivals. Penelope attended every one, her presence a silent roar. Summer scorched the earth, but their love cooled it. A road trip to Big Bend, tent pitched under starry vaults, bodies entwined against canyon chill. There, by a campfire's crackle, Riley proposed, not with fanfare, but a simple band pulled from her pack. Marry me. Again. Officially, tears blurred Penelope's yes. Their kiss sealed with smoke and promise. The wedding was intimate, held at Harlan's ranch under a live oak draped in wildflowers. 50 souls in attendance, Haven alumni, Riley's journalist kin, Elena absent but forgiven in spirit. Vows exchanged at sunset, Penelope's in your eyes. I found my voice. Riley's with you. Truth is home. Harlan walked Penelope down the aisle, his arm steady, whispering, she's the daughter I always needed. Honeymoon in the Smokies. Cabins and hikes. Rediscovering touch in misty mornings. Back home. Life resumed amplified. Haven's third site groundbreaking. Riley's book tour. Harlan's memoir ghosted by none other than Elena. Redemption's full circle. Yet the markers stabilized. A false alarm banished. Relief washed them clean. Deepening gratitude. On their first anniversary, Penelope gifted Riley a leather-bound journal. Inscribed our story. Unwritten. Riley's reply a kiss. And words. The best chapters are the ones we live. As leaves turned once more. Penelope reflected on the scandal's forge, the career-ending threat that birthed unbreakable alloy. Love, she knew, was the ultimate exposé. Revealing, ravaging, redeeming. The rhythm of their days settled into a cadence both familiar and profound, like the steady pulse of the Colorado River carving stone over eons. 2 years post-wedding, the bungalow had evolved into a haven of its own, expansions funded by Riley's book sales adding a sunroom where Penelope led writing workshops for Haven residents. Shelves groaning under manuscripts born of pain transmuted to prose. Mornings often found them there. Riley sketching article outlines on a notepad while Penelope sipped yerba mate. Their conversation a meandering stream touching politics, poetry, the absurdities of Austin traffic. Harlan's integration deepened subtly, weekly calls evolving to Sunday suppers at the ranch, where he regaled with tales of legislative glory days, now laced with self-deprecating humor. I was a bull in a china shop, he'd say, passing the cornbread, eyes twinkling at Riley. You tamed the beast with that damn article. Riley's retort was always gentle. A nod to the man emerging from the governor's husk. Haven House Thrive. Its network spanning the state. But expansion bred challenges. A funding cut from conservative legislators, retaliation for Riley's latest series on anti-LGBTQ bills, threatened the San Antonio site. Penelope rallied, organizing a benefit concert at ACL Live. Local acts like Black Pumas donating sets. The house packed with allies. Riley emceed. Her voice steady despite the stage fright that still nipped. Cracking jokes that drew belly laughs. Tonight, we're not just raising money, we're raising hell. Politely, the event netted double the goal. But exhaustion shadowed Penelope afterward. A bone-deep weariness from ceaseless advocacy. Am I enough? She confessed one night. Curled against Riley in bed. The ceiling fan whirring overhead. Riley turned, propping on elbow. Her curls framing a face etched with love's lines. You're everything. The world just doesn't deserve you yet. Vulnerability, once a specter, became their shared language. Riley's health checkups came quarterly now. Each a hurdle cleared with held breaths and celebratory tacos. But a new shadow emerged: fertility. Whispers among Haven moms, adoptive, biological stirred longings. Over wine on the porch, Penelope broached it. Kids. With you. Is that? Riley's eyes lit. Hand on belly. Hell yes. But on our terms. Consultations followed. IVF options. Adoption agencies. The bureaucratic maze of queer parenting in Texas. Hope flickered. Tempered by realism, Riley's medical history a potential barrier. The state's patchwork laws a minefield. Yet they dove in. Foster classes on weekends. Home studies turning the bungalow inside out. Enter Mia. A 4-year-old firecracker with braids and a gap-toothed grin. Removed from a neglectful home. Her file noting possible queer family preference. The first visit was chaos. Mia pending toy bins. Demanding pancakes now. But Riley's patience won her over. Flipping flips while Penelope read the family book. By the third, Mia climbed into Penelope's lap. Whispering, "You smell like home." The fostering process dragged. Court dates and social worker visits a gauntlet. But Mia's laughter filled the gaps. Harlan doted. Crafting lopsided birdhouses in the backyard. His gruff Grandpa Harlan melting reservations. "Never thought I'd see this," he told Penelope one afternoon. "Watching Mia chase fireflies. You. Building what I tore down." Tears pricked. "We're all rebuilding. Dad." Summer storms tested resolve. A custody hearing where Mia's bio-aunt contested. Dredging old scandals. Unfit environment. Given the lifestyle, Riley testified. Voice unwavering. "Our love is her strength, not her shame." The judge ruled in their favor. Mia's adoption finalized under October skies. A courthouse ceremony sealing her as Mia Sinclair Hayes. Parenting upended their world. Sleepless nights with nightmares. Preschool drop-offs laced with advocacy against playground biases. Yet joy abounded. Mia's first "I love you" Mama pen. Finger paints smeared on fridge art. Family hikes where Riley hoisted her on shoulders. Declaring, "Conquer the mountain. Kiddo." Elena's redemption arc crested unexpectedly. Now a therapist specializing in queer trauma. She reached out via Haven referral. Offering pro bono sessions. Penelope attended one. The cafe long ago's tension dissolved in mutual growth. "I was lost," Elena admitted. You found your way. Teach me. They did. Elena volunteering at workshops. Her insights sharpening tools for healing. Riley's career reignited with a Netflix docuseries on Texas politics underbelly. Her producer cred solidifying. Filming meant travel. Absences that stretched Penelope thin. Mia's questions. When Mama back? A daily ache. One shoot in D.C. Riley called late. Voice husky from jet lag. Miss you both. Tell Mia I love her to the moon. Penelope did. Tucking Mia in with stories of journalist mamas who chase stars. But distance bred doubt. A tabloid revival. Dredging wedding photos with salacious spin. From scandal to sham? Penelope laughed it off. But Riley returned withdrawn. Unpacking with mechanical efficiency. Talk, Penelope urged. Cornering her in the kitchen. Riley sighed. Leaning against counter. It's nothing. Old ghosts. Ghosts haunt couples, Penelope pressed. We promised no secrets. The floodgates opened. Riley's fear of inadequacy. The docuseries stirring memories of career-ending threats. Whispers from crew about the governor's girl. I don't want to drag you back into that, she confessed. Penelope pulled her close. Hearts hammering in sync. We're not dragged. We're chosen. Reconnection was fierce. Date night sans Mia. At a speakeasy off 6. Dancing to sultry blues till last call. Home. They rediscovered each other. Slow and deliberate. Whispers of affirmation weaving through touches. Forever, Riley breathed. As dawn crept in. Winter brought milestones. Mia's kindergarten plunge. Harlan's 60th bash at the ranch. A hoedown with line dancing and brisket that drew old allies. He danced with Mia. Twirling her under stars. Penelope snapping photos. Riley's arm around her waist. Look at us, Riley murmured. Whole. Spring unfurled with a pregnancy announcement. Via donor. Riley caring. The news shared at Haven's annual retreat. Cheers erupted. Hugs enveloping. Harlan toasting to legacies renewed. The pregnancy progressed with cautious joy. Ultrasounds revealing a boy. Nursery painted sky blue. Mia bossing assembly with baby brother's room. Riley's glow was ethereal. But aches and appointments tested tempers, hormonal snaps. Midnight cravings for Whataburger. Through it. Love anchored. Penelope's foot rubs. Riley's handwritten notes in lunchboxes. Harlan stepped up. Stocking the freezer with casseroles. His presence a quiet evolution. Labor came fierce in August heat. 20 hours of grit and grace. Baby Elias emerging with Riley's eyes and Penelope's freckles. The room filled with cries and tears. Mia peeking over the curtain. Whispering. He's tiny. In the haze of new mother fog. Penelope held Elias. Riley dozing beside. And felt the scandal's echo fade to whisper. They had built not despite the storm. But through it a family. Fierce and flawed. A testament to love's quiet scandal. Elias's arrival reshaped their world into a kaleidoscope of firsts. Colic nights blending into dawn feeds. Mia's tentative big sister role marked by sticky kisses and shush. Baby sleeping commands. The bungalow pulsed with life. Cribs in the sunroom. Burp cloths draped like flags of surrender. Riley's laptop exiled to the attic amid the chaos. Penelope adapted with the grace of her advocacy days. But fatigue etched shadows under her eyes. Her nonprofit duties delegated to trusted lieutenants as maternity leave stretched. Riley. Postpartum body a map of endurance. Dove back into work with tempered zeal. Her docuseries earning Emmys buzz. Interviews conducted from the nursery rocker. "This little guy's my co-producer," she'd quip to producers. Elias gurgling in her lap. But the acclaim stirred old currents. Invitations to panels on political scandals and personal redemption, where moderators probed with veiled digs. "How has the Sinclair shadow affected your marriage?" Riley deflected with sharp wit. But home debriefs revealed the toll. "They see us as a punchline," she vented one evening. Elias nursing as Penelope chopped cilantro for tacos. "Not a family." Penelope set down the knife, crossing to kiss her forehead. "We're the epilogue they can't write." Harlan's role expanded into grandfatherly lore. Weekends at the ranch became tradition. Mia riding ponies while he bottle-fed Elias, humming off-key lullabies from his campaign trail days. "Never pictured this," he admitted to Penelope during a corral-side chat. "Dust kicking up from pony hooves. You? With a brood. Me? Useful again. You're more than useful." "Dad," she said, squeezing his arm. "Your family." His memoir launched that fall. A bestseller blending confession with policy postmortem. Elena's editing hand evident in its empathetic turn. Dedication. To Penny and Riley, Lessons in Grace. The book tour took him cross-country. But Austin stops featured family cameos. Mia waving from the audience. Elias in a carrier sling. Haven House marked its 5th year with a gala at the Long Center. The theater aglow with donor checks and resident testimonials. Penelope keynote. Elias in a bassinet backstage. Her words soaring. "From silence to symphony, we amplify the unheard." Riley filmed it for the podcast. Pride beaming. Later whispering in the green room. "That's my wife." But harmony phrase at edges. Elena's involvement deepened, now a Haven board member. Her insights invaluable. But old jealousy simmered when she and Riley bonded over late-night grant reviews. Laughter spilling from the office. Penelope quashed insecurity. But a misplaced text. "Miss our talks. Coffee soon." From Elena to Riley ignited a spark. Confrontation brewed over breakfast. Mia at school. Elias napping. "What's with Elena?" Penelope asked. Tone sharper than intended. Riley blinked. Coffee mug paused. "Colleague stuff." "Why?" The text. "Feels familiar." Riley's face softened to hurt. "Jealous?" "After everything." Penelope deflated. "Scared of losing what we've built." The talk stretched into afternoon. Tears and truths aired. Riley's reassurance. "You're my only." Penelope's apology for projecting past wounds. They emerged closer. Boundaries redrawn. Elena looped in for clarity. "Just friends." "Promise." Winter wrapped them in coziness. Holiday lights strung on the ranch fence. Mia's school play as a wise woman bearing gifts. Elias's first snowman, a lopsided lump. Harlan hosted. The table groaning with tamales and pie. Toast to new beginnings. Old loves. Spring brought Elias's milestones crawling chaos. First words. Mama Ree. Family photos capturing the sprawl. Riley's Series 1 awards. But burnout loomed, she scaled back. Turning to teaching at UT Austin. Mentoring young reporters on ethics amid bias. A crisis hit in May. A Haven resident. Teenage Theo. Outed by a teacher. Spiraling into crisis. Penelope rushed to the hospital. Riley following with Mia in tow. The night a vigil of calls to lawyers and counselors. Harlan arrived at dawn. Coffee in hand. Sitting with Theo's mom. We'll fix this, he growled, pulling strings for a swift school transfer. Theo stabilized, crediting you all in a group session. His gratitude a bomb. But the incident reignited advocacy fire. Riley and Penelope co-authored an op-ed on school protections, Harlan lobbying ex-colleagues from the ranch phone. Summer swelled with travel, a family road trip to Yellowstone. Geysers mirroring their eruptions of joy, Mia chasing bison shadows, Elias babbling at stars, Riley and Penelope stealing kisses by campfire. This is it, Riley said one night. Heads on shared pillow. The life we earned. Back home. A surprise, Elena's wedding invite to a woman, a therapist colleague held in Dallas. They attended. Penelope toasting to loves that heal, the dance floor a swirl of acceptance. Fall deep in bonds, Elias's first birthday. Smash cake mayhem. Harlan's gift a tiny Stetson. Haven expanded to El Paso. Border stories weaving into curriculum. Riley documenting with sensitivity. Yet introspection called. On their 4th anniversary, a weekend at a Fredericksburg B&B. No kids. They hiked Enchanted Rock. Summit views stretching endless. Regrets? Penelope asked. Wind tousling hair. Riley pondered. None. You. Only that we waited so long to start. Their kiss atop the dome sealed it. A vow renewed. As leaves fell, Penelope gazed at her tapestry, family, purpose, love, and knew the scandal had been catalyst, not curse. In its wake, they flourished. Roots entwined, branches reaching skyward. Time's river flowed swifter now, carrying them into the uncharted waters of middle years. The bungalow a vessel weathered but seaworthy. Elias at 3 was a whirlwind of curiosity, dismantling puzzles and demanding why sky blue. Mama? While Mia, 8 and fierce, captained soccer teams with Riley's competitive spark. Penelope balanced Haven's helm with home, her hair threading silver at temples, laugh lines deepening around green eyes that still held storms subdued. Riley's professorship bloomed into tenure, her syllabus a manifesto on truth-telling, students flocking to her office hours. You're changing lives, Penelope noted over dinner. Fork pausing mid-bite as Riley recounted a shy freshman coming out mid-seminar. Riley shrugged. Modest. Paying forward what you gave me, Harlan. At 65. Embraced semi-retirement with vigor. A podcast on Texas history. Episodes laced with personal reckonings. Guest spots from Riley drawing ironic chuckles. He doted on the grandkids. Mia's writing lessons at dawn. Elias's fort-building marathons in the hayloft. These two, he told Penelope during a corral fence repair. Hammer swinging. They're the legacy I botched first time round. You're making it right, she replied. Handing nails. The rhythm companionable. Haven's 10th anniversary loomed. A milestone gala planned at the Capitol itself, poetic justice. Harlan pulling strings for the venue. Preparations consumed months. Resident spotlights. Donor schmoozing. Riley scripting a video montage of transformations. But a letter arrived. Anonymous and venomous. Your perversion ends here. Watch your back. Attached photos. Grainy shots of the family at the ranch. Circled faces. Fear coiled. Old scars itching. Penelope showed Riley. Voice steady despite tremor. Hate mail. Again. Riley's jaw set. We report it. And keep living loud. Police involvement followed. A detective sympathetic but overworked. The threat filed amid rising anti-queer incidents statewide. Harlan beefed up ranch security. But the chill lingered. Nights when Penelope bolted awake, checking locks. Riley's arm a anchor in dark. Elena's network proved lifeline. Her wife, a cybersecurity whiz, traced the letter to a disgruntled ex-staffer. Charges pressed swiftly. Safety and sisters, Elena texted. The bond solidified. The gala proceeded triumphantly. Capitol Rotunda echoing with speeches and strings. Harlan emceeing with gravelly charm. From these halls of power, he boomed, we once silenced voices. Tonight, we amplify. Penelope's address brought the house down. Tears flowing as Theo, now a college junior, presented an award. Backstage, Riley enveloped her. Icon. Post-event, they decompressed at a dive bar on Dirty Six. Shots of mezcal burning away tension. Dancing till sweat slicked and silly. Home. With kids farmed to Harlan's, they tumbled into bed. Love-making a reclaiming slow, then urgent. Bodies reciting belonging. Winter whispered changes. Mia's first crush, a classmate with braids and braces, navigated with family talks on consent and hearts. Love's scary, Mia confided. Penelope hugging tight. But worth it. Elias started preschool. His artwork a riot of colors. Questions probing existence. Riley volunteered there. Storytime sessions on Brave Reporters. Kids rapped. A health scare jolted. Harlan's routine check revealing early prostate issues. Treatable but sobering. The family rallied, Penelope driving chemo runs. Riley fielding kid questions with age-softened truths. Mia drawing get well. Papa H cards. Recovery was grueling. But Harlan emerged reflective. Penning letters to old rivals. Mending fences. Spring bloomed with renewal. Haven's El Paso chapter thriving. Serving migrant queer families. Riley embedding for a feature that won national acclaim. Travel strained. But FaceTime bridged. Mia reciting lines for the school play. Elias waving toys at the screen. Elena's pregnancy announcement sparked joy. A backyard barbecue celebrating. Bellies toasted with mocktails. Anti-duties await, Penelope joked. Rubbing her own flat midriff. The donor talks resurfacing idly. Summer scorched with adventure. A Gulf Coast vacation. Sandcastles and snorkels. Elias's glee at jellyfish a daily delight. Evenings on the deck. Riley strumming guitar. Songs of outlaws and lovers. Penelope harmonizing softly. Fall brought Mia's play. The Witch's Wardrobe. A queer twist on Narnia. Her Aslan roaring fierce. Post-show. Ice cream runs. Harlan sneaking extra scoops. His health robust again. Introspection hit during a Haven retreat. Facilitators prompting legacy letters. Penelope penning to her daughters to be. Words tumbling. You are enough. Love boldly. Riley's was to students. Unwielding truth as shield. Their 15th anniversary neared. But life intruded. Riley's department chair offer. Tenure's crown. Demanding more hours. Penelope supported. But resentment simmered. Date nights canceled. Bedtime stories solo. The blow-up came post-Thanksgiving. Kids asleep. Dishes stacked. I need you here, Penelope snapped. Wiping counters viciously. Not always chasing the next byline. Riley recoiled. This is us. Pen. The fight we started. It's exhausting, Penelope admitted, sinking to floor. I miss us. The reckoning stretch days. Counseling with Elena. Unpacking ambition's cost. Recommitting to balance, Riley delegating. Penelope carving solo time for yoga and novels. Reconciliation flowered in December. A surprise weekend at the coast. Kids with Harlan. They walked beaches at dawn. Shells crunching underfoot. Hands clasped. Partners first, Riley vowed. Ring glinting. Always, Penelope echoed. As snow flurried rare in Austin, they hosted solstice. Lanterns lit. Stories shared. The threat sender sentenced to community service. Justice quiet but firm. Penelope, cradling Elias by firelight, felt the year's weight lift. The scandal, once a noose, now a scar faint, faded, fueling forward. Decades folded like accordion pleats, each crease a memory etched deeper. The bungalow a palimpsest of lives layered. Mia at 18 stormed UT Austin's campus. Poli-sci major with activist fire. Her dorm posters echoing Riley's old clippings. Elias, 15 and lanky, tinkered with code in the sunroom. Haven's tech intern. His quiet intensity Penelope's mirror. The kids' independence granted space. Penelope and Riley rediscovering coupledom amid empty nests. Wine tastings in hill country wineries. Spontaneous drives to Marfa for art and stars. Haven House spanned the Southwest. Chapters in every major city. Its model emulated nationwide. Penelope's TED Talk, from closet to Capitol, garnering millions of views. She keynote globally now. But home pulled strongest. Advisory role allowing mentorship over management. Riley's chairmanship evolved the journalism school into a powerhouse. Ethics labs and investigative pods churning out award winners. Her own writing shifted to long-form books on resilience. Forewords penned for Mia's undergrad thesis on queer policy. Full circle, she'd say. Signing copies at local readings. Penelope beaming from the front row. Harlan, pushing 75. Authored a second volume, Memoirs of Mentorship. Proceeds to Haven. His rancher retreat for resident retreats. Pecan groves whispering welcomes. Health held. Though knees creaked. His gait slower but spirit unbowed. These grandkids, he'd grumble fondly. Watching me a debate on TV news. Gonna outshine us all. Elena's family grew, 2 kids. A thriving practice, holiday gatherings blending broods. Laughter a chorus across backyards. Her and Penelope's friendship, tempered by fire, shone steadfast. Co-parenting playdates a joy. Yet age whispered reminders. Riley's silver threading black curls. Penelope's hands veining with time's map. A scare came mid-60s for Riley. Routine scan flagging a polyp. Benign but evocative. Therapy revisiting cancer's ghost. We're elders now, she joked post-clearance. But eyes held gravity. Penelope initiated legacy dates. Monthly escapes. No agenda but presence. Kayaking Barton Springs. Picnics under the Congress Avenue Bridge Bats exodus. Remember the balcony? She'd tease. Fingers interlaced. Riley's grin flashed. How could I forget? You stole my heart in the rain. Mia's coming out at 20 proud. To a girlfriend named Lena. A sculptor with tattooed arms, unfolded at family dinner. Harlan raising glass first. To love. Unapologetic. Elias. Out as non-binary since 14. Nodded solidarity. Their chosen name Eli long embraced. Weddings followed. Mia's in a wildflower meadow. Lena's ring a forged band. Riley walking her down leaf-strewn aisle. Tears unchecked. Eli's union years later. To a software was named Jordan. In a low-key courthouse affair. Penelope officiating with vows borrowed from their own. Grandkids arrived in waves. Mia's twins. Boisterous boys. Eli's daughter. A bookish sprite. Ripples from Elena's line mingling at annual reunions. The bungalow. Expanded again. Hosted chaos, crayon murals. Lego avalanches, Harlan in rocking chair. Dispensing back in my day wisdom laced with humility. Haven evolved under Mia's leadership. Her innovations digital VR simulations for ally training, while Eli coded apps for crisis hotlines. Riley guest lectured. Anecdotes drawing guffaws. Penelope consulted. Her voice elder stateswoman. A national scandal echoed their own. A senator's outing. Career imploding. Riley upheading redemption over ruin. Harlan. From retirement. Testified for protections. His words carrying weight of conversion. Personal tides turned poignant. Harlan's decline at 80. Dementia's slow theft. Ranch sold to fund care. Family rotations ensured his comfort. Stories retold to anchor him. Mia's triumphs. Eli's patents. Grandkids' recitals. His last lucid day. In the bungalow sunroom. He gripped Penelope's hand. Proud. Of the woman you became. Love her well. Riley. We do, they chorused. Tears salting the moment. His passing left a hollow. Funeral at the Capitol, a statesman send-off. Eulogies from foes turned friends. Graveside. Under live oaks. Penelope scattered pecan leaves. Whispering. Restored. Grief's raw edge softened in routines. Riley's new book on intergenerational queer stories. Penelope co-authoring chapters. Interviews with Mia and Eli. Elena's support unwavering. Group hikes healing. 70th birthdays twinned in splendor. A cruise down the Danube, no. Texas-sized. A hill country festival with bands and barbecues. Grandkids toasting to the loves that launched us. Dances under lanterns. Riley's hand in Penelope's. Bodies slower but synced. Reflections deepened. A joint memoir proposed. From scandal to sanctuary. Outlines sketched on porch swings. Therapy evolved to legacy counseling. Passing batons to kids. Elias no. Eli's child's birth brought renewal. A naming ceremony where Penelope and Riley vowed anti-duties. Cradling the newborn under stars. Cycle continues, Riley murmured. As autumn waned, Penelope traced Riley's face by lamplight. Lines a roadmap of shared miles. Best scandal ever, she quipped. Riley chuckled. Pulling close. Damn right. The river flowed on. Their love its deepest channel enduring. Etching eternity. In the quiet epilogue of their years, the bungalow stood sentinel on Austin's east side. Its porch swing creaking under the weight of sunsets watched hand in hand. Penelope at 78 moved with the deliberate grace of wisdom earned. Her auburn waves fully silver. Green eyes still sparking with that inner storm now calm to lake surface. Riley, ever the shadow to her light, leaned on a cane etched with journalistic quips. Her obsidian gaze softened by cataracts but sharp in spirit. Curls cropped close against time's tide. Haven House, under Mia's stewardship, had become a national force. Campuses dotting the map like stars in a reclaimed sky. Eli's tech arm innovating global reach. Grandkids cycled through university interns. Summer campers. their laughter a echo of Mia's once, Eli's quiet joys. Harlan's legacy. Redeem. Funded scholarships in his name. Plaques bearing truth and tolerance. Riley's final book. A sprawling oral history. Launched to acclaim. Her voice frail but fierce in podcast. Penelope editing beside her. Annotations rich with asides. Our story's the spine, Riley'd say. Tapping pages. Travel slowed to regional jaunts. Anniversaries in Galveston. Toes in surf. Reminiscing balcony sparks. Health wove caution. Penelope's hip replacement. Riley's pacemaker. But intimacy endured. Adapted. Mornings tangled in sheets. Whispers over tea. Touches that spoke volumes. Elena's visits. Now biannual. Bridged generations. Her kids' kids calling them Auntie Penry. Stories swapped of old scandals turned lore. You two started it all, she'd say. Clinking glasses. Mia's twins. Now teens. Debated policy at dinner tables. Eli's daughter publishing poetry in Haven journals. Family reunions at the old ranch site, now a preserve, featured bonfires. Harlan tales retold. His absence a gentle ache. A stroke felled Riley at 82. Left side weaken. Words halting. But mind a fortress. Rehab was battle. Penelope at every session. Mia flying in. Eli coding speech apps. Stubborn as ever, Penelope teased. Massaging Riley's hand. Recovery plateaued. But joy persisted. Adaptive yoga in the sunroom. Grandkid readings of Riley's books. Penelope's journal entries voiced aloud. Still my truth, Riley slurred one eve. Eyes locking. Always, Penelope vowed. The end came soft in spring. Cherry blossoms drifting past windows. Riley slipping away mid-nap. Penelope's hand in hers. Eli's daughter humming a lullaby. The room filled with family. Grief a tide receding to reveal treasures. A life of love unyielding. Funeral at Zilker. Under their wedding oak. Eulogies from students. Residents. Kin. Penelope spoke last. Riley Hayes didn't just chase stories, she lived the greatest one. With me. Years blurred after. Penelope at 90 a matriarch. Haven's emerita. Memoirs complete. Mia's policy wins. Eli's innovations. Grandkids' weddings a continuum. Solitude sweetened by visits. Journals penned to Riley. Miss your laugh. But feel you here. One dawn. Porch swing. Penelope felt the pull. A balcony in rain. Obsidian eyes meeting green. Coming, she whispered. Closing eyes. The scandal that could have ended careers birthed an odyssey. Love's quiet roar. Echoing eternal.